everyone, and welcome to an episode of the Jonah Keen Show on Radio DePaul. Welcome one and welcome all. For those who are tuning in for the very first time, you may be curious as to what the Jonah Keen Show is all about. Well, I'll tell you. Ever since I was a teenager, I've had an absolute passion for giving advice. Some kids did sports, some kids did theater, some kids did math club, but I did advice. In fact, I've been a certified advice giver for almost 10 years now. Good job, me. On the Jonah Keen Show, I'll be interviewing folks who have a wide range of expertise and advice to share. Also on the show, there will be some opportunities to call into the station and ask for your own personalized advice. Maybe you need some relationship advice. What about pet advice? Maybe you need some financial advice. Maybe you just need some good old-fashioned self-help advice. We take all kinds of requests for advice. My name is Jonah, Mr. Advice Keen, and welcome to the Jonah Keen Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Jonah Keen Show. Hope everyone is doing well. I sure am. I've been having a great day. My wife actually called me back for once, and we fortunately had a eventful conversation. I just haven't talked to her in so long. But enough about me, enough about all that. We are here today to talk all things advice. But before that, I would like to address kind of the elephant in the room. I know everyone has been sending me letters and emails and cards and etc. about this, and I think it's time I address it. Last week, we had a caller, Shawn J Trout, to give us some advice on Oklahoma, and unfortunately, he lied to my fans directly about Oklahoma advice, and more specifically, that Coruscant, the city in Star Wars, was actually inspired by Oklahoma, and George Lucas was inspired by Oklahoma City to create the planet of Coruscant in Star Wars, and that is in fact not true in the slightest. And well, it really upset me, and if you were here last week, you probably heard my frustration during the show. And so what I did is I traveled all the way down to Oklahoma City from Chicago since last episode, and I went down there and confronted Shawn J Trout personally, and we straightened things up. And so I've decided to call, well, we're going to have Shawn on again, and we're going to pretty much see what he has to say about all of this, and hopefully he'll make an apology to the fans. So let's get him on real quick. And okay. We are once again back with Shawn J Trout. Welcome back to the Jonah Keen Show.
Thank you for having me back on.
No problem. And I know the listeners are probably thinking, Jonah, why are you having Shawn on again? Wasn't he on last week, and wasn't he lying about Star Wars in Oklahoma City? And I'm sure everyone's saying that, and I would like to address that and say, yes, he did lie, and he actually has something to say about that. Shawn, do you want to?
I'm just so sorry, Jonah. I was just trying to show off for your listeners, and I just thought that'd be a cool little tidbit because I know you love Star Wars, but it just spiraled out of control, and I didn't know what to do if you caught me because I didn't think you'd actually catch that. And I'm just sorry to you. I'm sorry to the Paul University. I'm sorry to your father for accusing him of being a liar too.
Shawn, easy now. For the listeners who weren't able to make it to the last episode, what he's talking about is last week I called him in to give some Oklahoma themed advice. We were doing 50 states of advice. And he told me 2 facts. He told me, A, that there's a lot of Sam's Clubs in Oklahoma, and that's where they originally started. And the other piece of advice is that the city of Coruscant, the planet of Coruscant in Star Wars, was in fact based around Oklahoma City. And during... And apparently he was trying to act cool. That second fact is not indeed accurate. So for the advice freaks out there who thought that was real, erase that from your notebooks. That information were lies. That's Shawn's spread.
Okay. Can we move on? I said
Shawn,
my piece.
Yeah,
I said my piece, and
apologized.
I just would really like to move on. If you have it in your heart, Jonah, and I know you do. You're such a kind little man. And
Thank you, Shawn. Thank you, Shawn. So I pretty much brought Shawn on here to 1, apologize, and 2, to redeem himself by sharing some more Oklahoma City and Oklahoma knowledge, because he is in fact a real expert when it comes to Oklahoma, and I'm sure a lot of DePaul University students love Oklahoma as well. So that's why I brought him on. So hopefully he'll be able to redeem himself and give some more expert advice when it comes to Oklahoma. So, Shawn, you have any more information to share with us?
I have just one.
Okay, fire away.
So as many people know, the prairie dog is the state animal of Oklahoma. And similar to Rocky Mountain oysters, people of Colorado love testicles from the cow. And similarly here in Oklahoma, we like to eat the testicles of the prairie dogs, and we call them prairie peanuts. Fried prairie dog testicles, but they're prairie peanuts because they're so small. I thought that was interesting because I love nuts. And it's Oklahoma.
Well, that's what the viewers are tuned in for, and I'm sure that's some expert advice. And I did actually fact check this piece of advice before the show to make sure he wasn't lying to my fans again. I do not want him lying to my fans. And so this, I think, is 100% honest and secure. So advice heads, write that down. Write down the prairie peanuts for Oklahoma. That's some great advice. Thank you, Shawn.
Thank you for letting me go back.
Okay, Shawn, simmer down now. We're going to get right back in. We're going to get...
Okay.
We're going to get right back into the state-themed advice now. Thank you for apologizing, Shawn, and let's get back to the states.
Thank you.
Okay. I think that was productive. Thank you, Shawn, for apologizing to the fans and all the advice heads out there listening. We really appreciate you, Shawn. Okay, we need to finish up the 50 states of advice today the series that we've been doing. We have just a few more states left, but we should hopefully finish today. The next state, we did Oklahoma last week, and we just finished it now. The next state we're going to be doing is Oregon. And here's a little advice about Oregon. Oregon City, Oregon is actually where I met my wife. I used to live there for a short time. And so my advice for Oregon would actually be, if you are in Oregon City, if you could locate my ex-wife Jenna and tell her to call me, I'd really appreciate it. I mean, she called me today, but she actually needs to call me back. So this is actually kind of it's not just advice, it's also a call for help. But if you could do both of those things for me, I'd really appreciate it. The next state is Pennsylvania. And fun fact about Pennsylvania, Philly cheesesteaks are actually, for all the Jonah Keen fans out there, write this down, my favorite food. And we salute Pennsylvania and its most populous city, Philadelphia, for crafting my favorite food, Philly cheesesteaks. I just want to eat those Philly cheesesteaks all day and all night with my mouth. The next state is Rhode Island. And it's another one of those states where I get confused. I really do get confused about this state. It's called Rhode Island. And first off, first problem I have with this state, it's not even an island. It's attached to the mainland. Look it up. Google it. On the map, you can see right there, Rhode Island is attached to the other states like Connecticut. It's all attached. It's not an island. Why would they call it Rhode Island? Secondly, even though it's called Rhode Island, I went there. There's no substantial amount of roads or streets. There's just a normal amount of roads, just like any other state. There seems to be an equal amount of roads there than in any other state. It's about the same amount of roads. And so my advice would be Rhode Island is not an island, and there are a normal amount of roads there, despite the name, which would make you feel otherwise. Rhode Island, normal state. It's small, but it's not an island, and there's a normal amount of roads. Let's move on because I'm starting to get frustrated and I'm starting to get flustered, and I'm trying to keep it cool for the advice heads out there. Thank you for listening in, by the way. Next state, South Carolina. And now this piece of advice is very similar to North Carolina, and it has to do with the movie Coraline. It's a movie called Coraline. Raise your hands at home, folks. Well, when I watched it a few months ago, it actually it really did scare me. It got scared, and it actually so much that I'm going to be visiting Carolina and North. And I know there, but I'm still very afraid because that movie's scary. Coraline and Carolina are very similar names. And so I'm just going to avoid those states at all cost because those names being that similar is not a coincidence. It's not. Trust me, folks. The next state is South Dakota. Now, I did North Dakota last week, and North Dakota, the advice for North Dakota was about the famous 1920 blizzard. And I've never been to either of those states, but I figured since North Dakota is north and it's famously cold, and South Dakota is south, usually south means hot, right? And so I think South Dakota is extremely hot since North Dakota is extremely cold. In fact, right now, I believe they're going through an awful 10-year drought. It has not rained in 10 years in South Dakota. Write this down. My advice for South Dakota, do not go to South Dakota or else you will be really thirsty and there'll be no rain. And that could cause some serious harm to you. So I'd be very careful when it comes to South Dakota. Okay, next state, Tennessee. Tennessee is home to Nashville, Tennessee, the city of rock and roll and folk music. But for a long while, I thought folk music was actually, well, I can't say this on the air, but actually F-word music. Think about it. Folk music and F-word. I mean, folk and F-word are so similar. Like, you could confuse those so easily. And I thought fans of folk music were actually haters of music. Like, imagine someone saying, I love folk music. Folk music. Folk music. It sounds like they're saying F-word music. And I thought they really just hated music. But turns out folk is a different word. It's spelled F-O-L-K. And the F word is F-U. Actually, I don't want to spell it out. Sorry, guys. I do not want to give you guys any ideas. Anyways, the next state is Texas. And I don't know if you guys know this, but I actually called someone a few weeks ago who was actually from Texas, and I think I'm going to call them again so they could give us some Texas-themed advice. I'm not going to say anything else. I'm just going to call them right now, and let's see if they would like to give us some advice. We'll see. All right. Okay. Michael, are you there? Michael Hamilton?
Yes, I believe so. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine, Michael. Welcome to the Jonah Keen Show.
Can
Before
you hear me?
I can hear you just fine, Michael.
Hold on,
Um,
hold on.
okay.
Come on. Why is it? Hey, Deborah, why can I not hear him? Okay, okay, honey, I'll try that. I guess I'll try this.
Michael?
Where's that button she wanted to?
Michael, can you hear me?
Jonah, if you can hear me, I'm here. I'm just trying to figure out
Michael?
this volume thing on. I mean, we got a new landline phone, and I can't figure out
Michael?
how to turn the doggone volume on this speakerphone.
Michael, we don't have a lot of time. I gotta get to the rest of the states in the United States of America when it comes to advice. Hello?
Jonah, I can hear. Jonah, I can hear you now. Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello?
Okay. Thank you for being patient with me.
It's okay.
Technology is 2 steps forward, 5 steps back. Am I right? Anyway,
You're
I don't want to
more
hold you up.
you're more than all right, Michael. We're doing the 50 states of advice here on the Jonah Keen Show.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and we're currently at Texas, and I know you're from Texas. So I'd like to ask if you have any Texas advice for the listeners who are tuning in right now.
Some Texas advice. Well, I got to admit, you kind of caught me off guard there for a second. You know that your friend our mutual friend Michael J Trout, his son Shawn is a historian for Oklahoma advice. So have you tried him for Oklahoma advice?
We did. We already did Oklahoma, and we are now on to Texas. You don't need to worry
Oh
about
yes,
that.
yes. I'm sorry.
We do it alphabetically, so O is before T alphabetically. Yeah, it's true.
Oh, yes. Okay, good. Good call. Good thing you're in charge of this advice. This advice show, and not me, because Lord knows I don't even know my alphabets no more. You know. So some Texas advice. And Charisse, do you know any Texas advice, hun? Or some sort of fact? Because my friend Jonah's here on the line.
Hi, Clarice. Hi, Clarice.
She says she's not aware of any either. I guess.
Michael, we need some advice, and we need it quick. We need to finish the rest of the state soon.
I'm sorry. I suppose I have a Whataburger burger in front of me. We're the world's leading provider of Whataburgers, if that's good enough for you.
What's a water burger? Is that what you said?
A Whataburger.
A Whataburger? How do you spell that? How do you spell that?
Well, let me move this doggone wrapper. Okay, I got it. You ready? You got your pen?
No, I'm not gonna write it down. I'm just curious how you spell
Okay,
it.
so if you have your pen, it is WHATT. That's 2 T's. A space burger as in boy. B burger as in boy. BURGER. What a burger is the.
Oh, I see now. I understand.
So yeah, we are the world leaders in what a burger.
I had no idea. Well, that's wonderful. And I'm sure all the people at home should write that down if they're in Texas to check out What a Burger. That's some great advice. And before I hang up on you, Michael, I'd like to congratulate you on the success of your book, Kids in Their Crotches, a book for children going through those years. I saw that it wasn't in the New York Times bestseller, but it was in the Philadelphia Times bestseller list, so that's pretty good.
Yep, we're moving our way up on those lists of top sellers. Oprah is in the process. I'm in the process of getting an Oprah sticker on there. That'll definitely boost some sales and the morale for my whole team. Yeah, it is. It was a great book, a great experience to learn and grow, and hopefully help parents like yourself, because you got 2 young children at home. Hopefully, it'll help you in those certain years, from about 12 to 18, 19.
Well, yeah, we've talked about the book already. We don't need to get more into it. But thank
Well,
you.
yeah, the book actually was about. I wrote about my two sons. I got
No,
a
we already
personal
talked about that.
experience,
We talked about that a few weeks
and
ago. We don't need to talk about this again. Michael,
so
it's
when
been
we wrote
wonderful.
the book, I spent
Um,
a number of psychologists were with me at the time, and we both, me and my partner Robert, doggone, what's his last name again? Robert Smith, I believe is his name. He's from Tennessee, if I remember right. Anywho, he helped me with the
Michael,
writing process, and as I'm a psychology man myself, so that part was easy, if you know. But the whole
Michael,
writing aspect was a little bit harder for me.
Michael, we're not. We already talked about your book. We don't need to go over it again. We've already talked about this. But I'd like to say thank you for the advice that you gave on Texas, and take it easy there in El Paso, Texas. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Yes,
I
thanks
hope you're having a great time in the big bustling city of Chicago. Is that where you're at? Chicago?
Chicago. I am going to DePaul University. But anyways,
Oh, wonderful.
yeah,
Wonderful.
yeah. Anyways,
Well, good luck to you.
thank you, and
And
thank you for.
anyway, so my book.
No. Thank you for coming on to the Jonah Keen Show. And now I'm hanging up now. Goodbye, Michael.
Okay.
I am so sorry, everyone. He should not have gone on that little tangent, and I apologize deeply about everything that was just said. We just need to move on. Okay, we're going to try to finish all the states today, and we need to get going. We only have 8 minutes left on today's episode. The next state is Utah, and Utah is home to plenty of Mormons. And if you don't know what a Mormon is a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, a religion founded in the United States in 1830 by Joseph Smith Jr. And that's pretty much a very popular religion. Everyone talks about it. Everyone likes it. And so if you're a big fan of Mormonism, my advice to you would be check out Utah and see if you like it for yourself. Next state we're doing is Vermont. And Vermont is home to plenty of foliage, fall foliage, very similar to New Hampshire. Unfortunately, much like New Hampshire, if it's not September through November, the state is a complete hellhole. And it might be one of the worst states of all time. So I'd recommend, if you are in Vermont, go there between September through November, and then get the heck out of there. It's not safe. It's a bad state. So I'd get out of there as soon as November rolls around. Okay. Virginia is the next state. This state is another confusing one for me, folks. I know. I get confused a lot, but it's okay. That's what life is about. Life is about making the things that are confusing not so confusing anymore. And that's a Jonah Keen quotable. I'd write that down if you are an advice head. Virginia, this state is another confusing one for me. For a while, I thought it was a state where only virgins were allowed to live. However, and close your ears, folks, if you don't want to hear this. After I made my 2 children, which means I had sexual relations with my wife after marriage, I visited Virginia. And weirdly enough, they never asked if I had sexual relations with anyone or not. They didn't check my virgin card at the border into Virginia. And so I guess, I don't know for sure 100% yet, anyone can visit Virginia regardless of your sex virgin status, which is good news all around. So that is my advice for Virginia. You don't have to be a virgin to visit the state. Okay, next state would be Washington. And Washington state is where I get a little peeved at the founding fathers like Benjamin Franklin and Alexander Hamilton and Thomas Jefferson and George Washington, etc. Because at this point, they had already invented Washington, D.C. Why would they also name a state Washington? This has always made me super mad and super angry, and it's why I cannot, in good faith, praise the founding fathers like Abe Lincoln and Benjamin Franklin and King George III, because why would they name two things Washington, and now people like me are going to get super confused regarding locations in the 50 states of America. Okay, we are almost done. We got 3 more states left. Let's hit it. West Virginia is the next state, and did you know that Take Me Home Country Roads is actually about the state of West Virginia? It's a little Easter egg. I don't know. You very well might miss it if you're just listening to the song. So let me read the lyrics out loud, and maybe you'll catch it. Here's the chorus. Country roads, take me home to the place I belong. West Virginia, mountain mommy, take me home. Country roads. Did you notice that? Did you catch that, guys? He said in the song by John Denver, West Virginia, before he said mountain mommy after that. So write that down, folks. That is some fantastic advice. West Virginia it's referenced. It's a little Easter egg in Take Me Home Country Roads. You very well might miss it if you're not paying attention. The next state is Wisconsin. And Wisconsin is known for their cheese and their famous football team, the Green Bay Packers. In fact, did you know that the Green Bay Packers are called cheeseheads? Did you know that? I didn't know that. It's a wonderful little snippet of advice. Unfortunately, I'm not a cheesehead, however. I am a die-hard Pacer fan. Indianapolis Pacers. Go Pacers. Okay, the very last state of all the 50 states of advice is Wyoming. This is it. This is the final state in the 50 states of advice alphabetically. It's been 3 shows, I believe, where we've just done this. We've gone from A to Z, all 50 states. The last one, Wyoming. Here we go. This is the end of an era, folks. Wyoming is the least populated state in the whole United States of America, USA. And I'd like to direct your attention, if you're in Wyoming right now, to the depression/suicide hotline 741-741. For if you live in Wyoming, which is the least populated state in America, USA, United States of America, you could possibly get lonely because there's not a lot of people who live there. And in fact, there are very few people who live there. Sorry to make it a little depressing at the end there, but that's the most positive advice I could have thought of for Wyoming. In fact, after the divorce, I've been getting quite lonely as well. Oh, but look at the time. I'm looking at it right now. And if you're a viewer at home, you could also look at your watch or something. It's about time that the show ends. So thank you very much for listening, everyone. I hope everyone enjoyed the 50 States of Advice. Next week, well, I guess you'll see what happens, but it's going to be very exciting. The next episode of the Jonah Keen Show will be one for the history books, and so will this one, actually. In fact, every single one of the Jonah Keen shows should be written down in the history books so that elementary schools and middle schools could all learn about Jonah Keen, the famous advice giver. Anyways, that is about all for today's episode. Hope everyone enjoyed, and good luck on your midterms, everyone. Take it easy.